Welcome to the Doctor's Mentor Show. If you believe that medicine is an industry and not a profession, if you enjoy submitting complex reimbursement claims, or you would do another residency just for fun, be advised, you're about to be offended. You should probably leave now.
All this talk about mentoring doctors is ridiculous. I thought doctors learned to do everything better than everyone else the first year of medical school. At least that's the way they act.
If you love assisting patients with vitality breakthroughs, if the right to practice medicine without interference is important, and you want expert tips for practice freedom and profits to support your epic life, welcome aboard and prepare to be blown away. The Doctor's Mentor Show starts now. Here's your host, Dr. Lori Barr.
For this episode, I'd like to walk you through a way to consider a new idea. This is just my way of implementing a new idea, and there are certainly many other ways that I'm going to expose you to as well. So here's what I do. So when I'm first considering a new idea, the first thing I want to figure out is it aligned with me and my life's purpose, or is it unaligned? So I have 3 questions I ask. So the first is, if I implement this idea, is it going to hurt someone? The second is it legal, moral, and ethical? And the third is, does it move me closer toward my life's purpose and toward the outcomes that I've set for myself in the near future and a little further future? So if it passes all 3 of those questions with a yes, then the idea is aligned with my life's purpose and with me. If not, if it's unaligned, I recycle it. And the unaligned ideas, sometimes they're so bad that I don't share them with anybody else. They just go into the recycle pile. And then other times I think about people who might benefit by putting those ideas together, and I'll seed those ideas to other people. So once I have an aligned idea, the next question I ask, so now I'm to the phase I'm trying to figure out when and how I'm going to implement this idea. When the idea is aligned, the first question I ask is, who does this idea serve? Is it only for me? Is it for my family and friends? Is it for a bigger audience? Is it for my ideal client? Is it for my patients? Who does this serve? If I come up with a clear answer, that's great. But let's say I really can't identify who it serves. I'm going to take that idea and I'm going to put it in my someday maybe file. Now, the someday maybe file is a real file that I have in my file cabinet, and what it allows me to do is it allows me to take ideas that otherwise would be weighing on my mind and to move them to a place where they are not on my mind anymore. I know they're safe. They're right there in my file. I can look at them anytime. I haven't forgotten about them, and that keeps my mind from having that idea gnaw and nag at me. So it's a great way to capture ideas, but not have them take mental energy away from you. So sometimes those ideas, if they don't have a clear purpose of who they're going to serve, they'll go right to the someday maybe file. If I know who it'll serve, the next question I ask is, well, why? Why am I willing to trade my life for this? Why is this important to me? If there's a clear answer, great. I'll go on and keep processing the idea. But if there's not a clear answer, if I don't have a really strong why, again, I'm going to write the idea down, get it out of my head, and put it in the someday maybe file. Once I know why and who, the next thing I'm going to ask is, where does this fit in everything I'm doing already? Is this such a hot idea I need to act on it right away, or somebody else is going to do it and take off with it? If so, it gets my highest priority to act on. Maybe it's not that critical, but it's something I want to act in within a short time frame. Then I'll put it on that list. If it's a little further out, again, I may just write it down and put it in the someday maybe file. But in this case, what I can do is also put a date on it. Like, oh, this is a great idea for 2017. Or this is a great idea that can happen after this happens. And I actually have another file that's called Next Actions. And I'll put things in there that I'm waiting on something else to happen before I can act on it. So that may be another place that an idea could go depending on how it came out in the prioritization. So once I know the who, the why, and the where, the next thing I'm going to do is take a minute to define success and define failure with this idea. Now, in order to define success, I need to look at the time, the money, and the influence that it's going to require to implement the idea. Like, how much is this going to cost me from the 3 currencies that I have to trade in my life? You know, everybody has 3 currencies that they trade the experiences they desire in life for. Money is one thing you trade. You know, like if you want to go on vacation, you pay money to have an experience, right? Well, sometimes you trade time to have an experience, and other times you trade influence or power to have a certain experience. Sometimes you trade all 3 to have the right experience, especially if they're once-in-a-lifetime experiences. So I want to define success in terms of how much it's going to cost me from my currency banks that I just described. And then I also want to define failure. Like what are the money, the time, and the resources that are going to have to go into this, and when am I going to call it quits? What is the point that if I've spent this much of any of my currencies or other resources that are required, I'm going to say, nope, it's a no deal. We've passed the limit. It's done. We're not going to pursue this anymore. So define that right off the bat. Once you do that, define, and when you're looking at success and failure, make sure that you have a clear picture of what the implemented idea looks like to call it successful. Know your end point. And then on the failure side, you're wanting to define your cutoff point for failure. Next, you want to look at the consequences of each. What happens if you succeed beyond your fondest dreams with this idea? And what happens if you fail miserably? Once you know how to define success, how to define failure, and the consequences of each, then you can start with the most important sales process you'll go through when implementing a new idea. You know what that is? That's selling the idea to yourself, because you are the harshest critic of your own ideas, unless you're enamored with an idea. And then you may not be critical at all. It's like falling in love, blissfully in love, infatuation with a new person, right? So that can happen, but most of the time we're pretty critical of our ideas. So sell the idea to yourself and really look at the objections that come up in your mind, the resistance that's created when you think about implementing this new idea. What are the things that your subconscious mind throws up to you and says, hey, remember the last time you tried that? What happened? Hey, didn't we do this before? And that never happened. You never completed that. There's no way you can make this work now. So whatever resistance comes up, write those down. Treat it just like you would a normal sales conversation. Look at the resistance factor. Prioritize these resistance factors. See if you can overcome that resistance. And what I want you to come away from when you're selling the idea to yourself is a prioritized list of the barriers to your success. Because what you're going to do is you're going to use those barriers to help you achieve incremental success until you've completed the whole activity in record time. So I want you to take the biggest barrier to your success in implementing this new idea, and then I want you to figure out a way to reposition that so that you achieve the reward of completing your goal before you have to face the first barrier. So, for example, I have some friends who have a book publishing business, and what they help people do is achieve bestseller status before they've ever written a word of their book. Now, how do people feel when they have the fame and the glory of being a best-selling author? Awesome, like they can do anything. It really boosts their confidence. So it's much easier for them to turn around and spend 90 days writing their book when they've already achieved and tasted a measure of the success. That's the kind of thing you want to create for yourself. So take your primary barrier, your biggest objection, and figure out a way to reposition that so that you don't have to do that heavy lifting hard work until after you've tasted a measure of your success. And then I want you to leverage that incremental success so that you're actually making money from the piece you complete of the idea. Capture proof of your success with the incremental implementation that you're doing. Get testimonials. Get somebody to tell how it's changed their life by using your system or implementing your idea or using your widget that you've created. And then refine your end result. So now that you know that you've overcome your first barrier, now that you've had incremental success, is there anything you need to refine about your end product, your end idea, the implementation of your idea that's different because of the new knowledge you have? And then you're going to redefine your success and failure and make sure that your standards you set are still appropriate. So you just keep doing this. You do this for your second barrier, your third barrier, any new barriers that come up, any new obstacles, until you find that you've got everything completed in record time and you've enjoyed incremental success that you've been able to celebrate and cash in on as you created the new product or widget or whatever you're doing with this idea. It's a great way to implement a new idea. And the most important thing is not wasting your time on ideas that are not ready to be hatched or not aligned with you. So just give it a try. I call that exponential implementation. And if you have any questions, just let me know.
There's more to explore at thedoctorsmentor.com.
Are you stopping at a hospital? Hello? Don't you know that hospitals are one of the sickest places on the planet? Don't touch anything in there and get out as fast as you can.